Before you start your fitness journey on January 1st of 2026, here are some things to consider. The first operative question is, what gym should you join? And look, it's going to depend. A couple things you need to factor in is, number one, how far away is it? The hours, obviously what kind of equipment they have. Look, if you're looking to build muscle, you're going to need some form of resistance training. Now, pretty much every gym, 99% of gyms I've ever seen, have enough resistance training for you to build muscle and or lose fat. So I don't think that's specifically going to be an issue. And look, if you're a beginner in the gym, you don't need to be super picky and choosy. Oh, I like this equipment. I don't like. You don't know anything about any of the equipment, so it doesn't really matter to you. But the hours, that's big. Look, is it a local gym that is only open when staffed and it's only open from 10 to 4? That's an issue, depending on your work schedule. Is this a 24-hour gym? Obviously ideal for everybody. How far away is it? That's another big question. At some point, maybe you just want to build a home gym. If the gym's going to be 40, 45, an hour out, maybe you just bite the bullet. And it's going to be more cost up front, obviously. But if you've got the space, you get a bench, you get some dumbbells, etc., and you can build over time. But yeah, it just depends on the drive time. Obviously, that's probably the most important thing. If it's a couple minutes away, you're gonna be able to do it a lot easier. If it's more than 30 minutes, it's like, okay, well, now half the time I spend lifting is gonna be driving to and from the gym, and that can get problematic if you're looking to lift more than 3 days a week. If you're looking to lift twice a week, 3 times a week, maybe on the weekends, probably the drive time isn't as important. But that's something to consider. Another thing you need to consider, you're all motivated, you're excited, you're thinking about what you can become, and you sign a contract. You sign a long-term contract. And some of these contracts are tricky. Look, some of these contracts, I'm not going to name any names, but some of these contracts, they'll lock you in them, and you got to do a jumping jack on Tuesday on leap year, and you got to give a chant. I mean, some of these contracts are just absolutely absurd in how you have to cancel them. I mean, honestly, some of them, you got to write a letter to the owner, but the owner's dead, and the actual owner's in Cancun, but they only take mail in November, and it's like, oh my gosh, can I even cancel? And then you just give up. You're like, oh man, this is just too much. Maybe I'll go at some point in the future. So, look, as much as I like the commitment that people are kind of forced into, because I think there are some people that do reach their fitness goals because they were like, if I'm gonna be paying for it, I gotta use it. So I do think it helps some people. But look, if you're just dilly-dallying around, if you're just kind of figuring out, you're like, I want to dip my toes in the pool and see how cold it is. If that's what you're doing, you got to be careful. You got to get a week membership. You got to get a day pass. You got to figure something out. But don't sign any contracts. And this doesn't just go for the gym. This goes for everything. But you shouldn't be signing contracts if you don't know what's in them. And I wouldn't just say, oh, is this a contract? And they say no. I would read it. I would definitely read it. I would figure out the terms of the contract. And some of these contracts are absurdly long. Maybe if you want to join XYZ chain gym, you can Google, the parameters of the contract, and someone can explain it to you so you don't have to read it. But I would definitely figure that out. The price is also obviously something that you need to factor in. Now, I will say, I don't think price is all that important. Now, look, if you're homeless, if you're about to, get evicted, then yeah, obviously the price matters, and maybe you shouldn't be spending any money on exercise. That'd be a debate for a different day. But for most people, if you spend, let's say, up to $200, if you go north of $200 a month, you're probably doing too much. But the difference between a $10 membership and a $175 membership is a lot of amenities, a cleaner gym, a nicer staff. And look, if you're going to be spending 5 days a week in this place, and this is kind of your third place, and what that means is your home's one place, your work is another place. If this is going to be your third place, where you're going to meet a lot of people, you're going to spend a lot of your time that's not sleeping or working there, look, I don't think it's unreasonable. I think it's worth the money. If you've got a very nice, expensive local gym, I think it makes a lot of sense to do that. Now, the next thing we're going to be talking about for all you beginners, because if you're starting lifting, you're probably also going to be looking to diet. You want to lose some weight, you want to gain some weight, etc. Maybe you just want to eat healthy, which I guess some people do that. Now, what to look for in a diet? A diet is going to be much more personalized in the sense that, some gyms, it's like, we can see this gym has the better hours because they're 24/7. This gym is cheaper, so it's a better price. This gym has better amenities. With the gym, it's a lot easier to see because it's just clear. It's, you can track it. In terms of the diet, it gets very murky because if you get into the fitness space, you're going to be getting a lot of videos in your recommends on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, etc. And they're going to be saying keto is the way to go, vegan is the way to go, intermittent fasting is the way to go, if it fits your macros is the way to go. And all these people are going to be definitive. They're all going to have studies to back them up, and you're just going to be confused. You're going to start a diet, your willpower is going to fade, you're going to cheat on the diet, and then you're inevitably going to come to the conclusion that, oh, it's not really me, it's not that I didn't follow this diet, it's that this wasn't the best one, and I'm going to go to a different YouTuber and follow his diet. Look, I've said this multiple times. Any diet can work. Any diet can work. All diets work through one mechanism, and that is a caloric deficit. I am burning 2,800 calories, hypothetically. I'm not saying I am. I'm burning 2,800 calories, and I am eating 2,400. That means that in a week, I am going to lose about a pound of fat. A pound of fat is 3,500 calories. And, well, actually, that wouldn't really be that close to a pound of fat. That'd be more like 0.6 pounds of fat, but you get the point. Is just calories in versus calories out in every diet. The reason why any diet works is because all diets exclude something. Vegan diets exclude meat and dairy, which are a lot of calories. Keto excludes carbs, which are a lot of calories. Intermittent fasting excludes you eating for 65% of the day. Excludes a lot of calories. Paleo excludes any fast food. Oh, that excludes a lot of calories. Every single diet, to some degree, in different forms or fashions, and you can mix and match them. They all do the same thing, and that is causing you to eat less calories. It's that simple. On any diet, you can lose weight, and on any diet, you can gain weight. It's that simple. Now, there are going to be, same thing with the gym, diets that work better for some people and work better for other people. And I don't mean that 1,000 calories of keto is different from 1,000 calories of vegan, although it is a tad different because of the macronutrient profile. What I mean by it is different is some people will be able to easily obtain to an intermittent fasting diet. And what that means is you fast 16 hours of the day, 8 of which are sleeping, and you eat 8 hours. Some people could do that the rest of their life, never have a hiccup. They can eat out, they can do whatever they want. Some people that works perfectly for. Other people are keto, and that works perfectly for them. They can, once again, eat out whenever they want. They can't have any rolls or fries or sodas and stuff like that, but it just depends. Look, some people, and it might change throughout your life. Maybe you love doing keto in your 20s, and now you can't adhere to it as well, and you want to have some more glycogen in your muscle for workouts. It's going to be person-to-person dependent. There is no best diet. There is no worst diet. And even for yourself, there isn't really a best or worst. It's kind of moment to moment. Maybe intermittent fasting works during the week because of your work schedule. You don't eat until you get off work at 3 p.m. or something, and then you eat. You feast. And then on the weekends, maybe you want to do keto. It doesn't matter. All you need to do is make sure that you go to BMR, type into Google, BMR, figure out how many calories you're burning. It's going to ask you your age, your height, your weight, your activity, etc. Going to tell you how many calories you're burning, and then all you need to do for a week, you don't even need to do it forever. For a week, track your calories. All you got to do is look at the back of something, figure out how many servings you ate, multiply that by the calories, and then just do basic addition and figure out how many calories you ate. It's not complicated. If you want to use MyFitnessPal, that's fine. A lot of people use MyFitnessPal. You could just as easily write it down in your notes on your phone, and boom. If you are not losing weight, that means that you need to eat less calories. If you are not gaining weight and you'd like to gain weight, that means you're not eating enough calories. It's pretty simple, honestly. Like a child could figure it out. Now, what to look for in fitness influencers. So this is going to be a big one. This is going to shape a lot of your decision making. And this could honestly shape if you're going to lift for a long period of time and if you're going to reach your fitness goals. Now, something I will say that a lot of people won't admit, because there are a lot of idiots and charlatans in the fitness space, but anyone with a following, and even a lot of people without a following, they all have something to offer. As crazy as that sounds, because a lot of you are like, oh no, I know some of those people are phony. I know that guy's just a complete... Look, to some degree, as stupid as some of these people are, as ridiculous as some of them are, as obnoxious as some of these people are, everyone has something to take away from their commentary. Whether it's the Liver King saying that you should live a more ancestral lifestyle and eat raw organs and stuff like that, and etc. there are some things to take away from that. Some of his ancestral tenets are great. And it's the same thing with everybody. You know, the people that preach keto only, that's the only way to lose weight. Look, there are some benefits to keto, obviously. Everyone has a grain of truth. What you need to do is you are going into this pretty ignorant. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. If you have never taken fitness seriously, you probably know very little, and you're going to be very susceptible to propaganda, to exaggerations, to conflated studies. And that's one thing I've got to address is studies. And, you know, look, you're probably not going to read the studies. Most people don't. A lot of these people that cite the studies don't read them either. One thing I would like to acknowledge is I don't think it's bad to bring up studies. I think studies are very helpful, especially meta-analysis, where we get a bunch of studies together and can see if something is trending in X, Y, or Z direction. One thing I would like to point out is if someone is not going to give you this study and then give you kind of the counter argument, then they're just kind of useless. Then they're just propagandists. They're just saying, oh, I'm going to show you this study on why intermittent fasting is great for this, this, and this. And intermittent fasting raises your HGH levels. It, you know, lowers body fat, et cetera, et cetera. That's fine. I don't mind that at all. Bring up studies. I like that. You know, you bring up personal anecdotes. You bring up training anecdotes. You bring up studies. That's all great. You bring up the way that it works, you know, aside from the study and personal, like why it works. From a mechanical standpoint, but then you also have to explain the counter argument. Why is intermittent fasting, why is it not good? Why is the HGH maybe a little misleading? Because anyone who is in a caloric deficit, so if you don't eat for 16, I'll kind of elaborate on this one. If you don't eat for 16 hours, your HGH is going to rise because you're in a caloric deficit. And it's going to rise, you know, let's say 200% during those 16 hours, and you're eating every 3 hours on a normal diet, hypothetically. You eat 6 meals a day, something absurd. Go on the complete other side of the spectrum. What that would mean is there's a lot of time in between those eating windows where your HGH would be higher. So they need to explain both sides of the argument to you. They shouldn't just say, okay, well, this is the study. We're not going to talk about any of the downsides. We're not going to talk about the other people, you know, the people that don't believe in keto, why they are wrong. And I will say this, a lot of the people, when they look at fitness influencers, they view it as a downside when they sell something. I don't really view that as a downside. I think it's person-to-person dependent. You know, some people sell nonsense. Obviously, if it's supplements, there's a good chance it's nonsense. Now, it depends on what supplements, and I'm getting ready to discuss what supplements I would recommend, and I'm not selling any of them, so hopefully you trust me on that. But I don't think it's bad if someone's selling a training program, a nutrition program. That's, you know, they're trying to make money, and I would just look at the reviews. I would look at the content of it. And there also, one thing I would look for when it comes to these people is just absurd claims. You know, you can probably spot it. If something feels absurd, it probably is. Whenever people say this increases by 11,000%, this decreases by 100, you know, you can't even decrease by more than 100%. But a lot of these people will go out on that limb and say, yeah, this decreased by 1 million. It's like, you can't decrease by more than 100. But anyways, with all that aside, the supplements, because I had mentioned that, you know, a lot of these people that sell supplements, they are kind of sleazeballs. They sell supplements on new stuff, which may or may not work, which may or may not have side effects that aren't really all that studied. Here are the supplements that I would recommend. Now, look, if you don't have the money, if you just want to get a $10 membership at Planet Fitness and you just want to improve your life, that's awesome. You don't need any supplements. You can do pretty good stuff without supplements. But supplements definitely work, and I'm going to touch on the ones that 100% have a lot of back studies and don't have any downsides or very minimal downsides. First one is going to be creatine. It is cheap, and it's been getting a little bit more expensive. It used to be really cheap back in the day, pre-COVID, but it's still pretty cheap. It is going to help you hold a little bit more intracellular water inside of your muscle, give you a little more stamina, and it's going to help you get into kind of that upward spiral, because a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle is a bigger muscle, and if you're able to lift 3 more reps on your bicep curl, that means your muscle will grow in size, and then it's kind of a cascading effect. So creatine is great. Also has some mental benefits in terms of cognitive function, so I would definitely check out creatine. Now, in terms of what creatine, it doesn't really matter. Look, some creatines are flavored. They're going to taste better, obviously, because normal creatine is not that tasty. I would probably just get monohydrate. You know, some people argue that there are slight benefits to other types of creatine. I have not seen conclusive studies on that, but none of them really have any downside. So if you want to get a different creatine, that's fine. Pre-workout. This is going to be a touchy one. Pre-workout is a great utensil, but it is often misused. I would probably avoid it. If I was speaking to 100 people, I would probably avoid it. Now, if I was speaking to one person, I would use it very intelligently and diligently, and it would be beneficial to that person if I had them in a lab. But if I was speaking to a million people, I would say never take pre-workout. It has benefits, for sure. A lot of people become dependent on them. If you're taking it after noon, it's going to affect your sleep most likely, depending on if it's a stimulant or not. So, and it depends on the pre-workout, obviously. Some pre-workouts have a lot of electrolytes in them that's going to help you get a pump. Some pre-workouts are just caffeine. Some of them have some sugar in them. Some of them have dyes in them. It's going to be pre-workout to pre-workout dependent. I would do your own research in terms of what you're looking at and the ingredients. Excuse me, but it's going to be hit and miss on if you should take it. It really depends on how you use the pre-workout. Vitamin D during the winter. Vitamin D is awesome, especially during the winter, but you could take it year-round. It's pretty cheap. Take 10,000 IOUs, OUs, whatever. You get the point of vitamin D. And it doesn't matter which kind you get. I've got the gummies. They're super cheap. You can get a year's worth for like $12. So I'd recommend vitamin D during the winter. Protein powders. Now, some people won't really consider this a supplement. They'll consider this a food. Whether or not whatever you consider protein powder is healthy, all the people that are saying it's unhealthy, whenever you ask them about why it's unhealthy, they just resort back to their feelings. It's not natural. Okay. What does that mean? Because nothing's really natural in the food and drink industry. So I don't even know what that means when people bring up it's not natural. I mean, whey protein, you got whey and casein, and it comes from dairy. So I don't know why that isn't natural. Separating them is the unnatural part, because when you drink milk, you're getting some whey in there. But anyways, not to get on a tangent there, whey protein, it's going to be a relatively cheap source of high-quality protein, and depending on if you eat enough protein or not, maybe whey is going to be very necessary for you. If you do eat a lot of protein, then maybe it's kind of a throwaway thing. It's like, oh yeah, I don't really need it. I do drink it, whatever. Some people need it, some people don't. Kind of different from pre-workout. Pre-workout, I know I said the same thing. I said some people could benefit, some people it won't benefit. But with pre-workout, most people that are taking pre-workout are experiencing negative side effects. The people that are drinking whey protein when they don't need to, there aren't really any downsides to it. So it's all positive. Very little negatives. With pre-workout, we got positives, but we've got a lot of negatives. And now I've got other listed. Look, there are going to be some other things. You need to get your blood work done. Anything other than those four that I mentioned, maybe there are some other ones that magnesium that are going to make sense for a lot of people. Electrolytes from Santa Cruz. But for the most part, I would definitely say do your blood work. Whether that's through insurance or if you just have to pay out of pocket, I would do your blood work and figure out what you are deficient in, and then supplement there. Maybe you can supplement with your diet and you've got no need for calcium. But look, if you can't get enough calcium in your diet for whatever reason, you just don't like foods that have calcium in them, take a calcium gummy. I don't see the issue with it. So other than those big four, if someone's trying to sell you on something and they don't know your personal situation, if it's your doctor and your doctor's says, yeah, you're low on calcium, then yeah, take calcium. But if it's some dude on the internet saying that you need to eat X, Y, and Z supplement, you need to take this supplement or you need to do this, say you don't even know me, because they don't.